From electronic salesman to Marine Corps rifleman, what is it like to go from average Joe to Billy Badass? Chatting with a Marine. Welcome to Purgatory. What's going on, freaks and freakettes? I am Spike.
And I'm Matt.
We have a guest today I'm very, very excited about. Mr. Rick is in the Marine Corps Reserves. We're very excited to have him on. How you doing today, man?
I am fantastic. Fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Just addressing this right off the bat. If it sounds like Rick is in a wind tunnel, it's because he's in his car, driving. Guy's busy, gotta be places. But you know what? He joined us anyway, and we're just excited to have him. So we got a lot to talk about today, man. You and I have known each other for a long time. I knew you before you were a Marine, and I've known you after you've become a Marine. And I've seen a huge change in you. And if you didn't know, Matt is actually interested in joining the Navy. So he's going to be very excited to talk to you, I'm sure.
Okay, fantastic. I'm very excited.
Well, give us like a rundown of you. Like, what's your MOS? Give us all that fucking hoorah jargon shit, dude.
Alrighty, so I am a 0621. Which means I'm a comms Marine. I work with the communications equipment that allows the Marine Corps to act efficiently because the Marine Corps shoots, they move, and they communicate. And you can't know what you're shooting at, and you don't know where to move to unless you're communicating. So communications is the pillar of the Marine Corps maneuver warfare. So mastery of job is pivotal there, and you can find comms Marines with almost any outfit in the Marine Corps. It doesn't matter what your job is, what your unit is designed to do. There is going to be some sort of communicator present. Whether you are supply and you need to just relay what's coming on, what's coming off of ships, getting those supplies organized. Through like,
so you like you see like in the movies the dude running around with the backpack. Like if you were in a combat scenario, that'd be you, right? Like the backpack with the antenna sticking out of it.
Exactly, and with the new Marine Corps infantry setup, the radio operator is now a pivotal role in the Marine Corps infantry squad. And luckily, it's not like how we saw like the one that always comes to my mind is We Were Soldiers, and the guy's running around and he gets shot in the back and like the sparks fly out and everything because he has a big antenna.
Yeah.
It's not so much like that anymore. We're using a much, much, much smaller radio that's much more efficient, broadcast.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, just looking at cell phones from the fucking 80s compared to now. Like, I'm sure you're not running around with a giant fucking 100-pound backpack, but just for the visual aid, you know?
Yeah, there's still definitely an antenna present. And so whenever you're running around, there's still an antenna hanging out of your bag, so.
All right, and then a question I had is like just being in the Marines, it's definitely allowed you to travel, right? Like to different places that you normally wouldn't have.
Yeah, so I've actually got to go to a few really cool places, and something a lot of people don't understand is there's always opportunity for more travel. You just have to seek it out and go be part of certain things. So, like, I've got to go to really cool places like some different mountain areas and some deserts, and there's just been some really cool places that I've got to go travel and see and have experiences that I normally wouldn't.
As opposed to like a 9-to-5 job where you're just kind of going to one spot.
Yeah, I mean, I take the same highway to work every day, and I've been going to the same place for 3 years. I mean, and honestly, the job that I had before was in the same freaking area, like literally 3 doors down. So now I'm just
It's a great band, by the way.
Yeah. Yes. We meet for brunch on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So kind of breaking that mold, breaking that routine, and doing the same thing over and over again. Whereas the Marine Corps is kind of a fluid operation and kind of the mission set changes day to day.
Yeah, we actually talked to a soldier on the podcast a few episodes ago, and he was an active duty soldier for a few years. And we talked about how the novelty of being a soldier kind of wore off, and it was just a 9 to 5 clock in, clock out for him at this point,
Right.
But it's probably interesting or different for you as a reservist to be like, you've got this routine of a 9 to 5 job, and then you clock out one weekend a month, and then you get to go fucking shoot machine guns and shit. Like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a price tag with that. I mean, you're definitely most likely going to be called to deploy, be put in some dangerous situations. But on the surface, it's pretty fucking cool to any kid to just be like, I get to go shoot machine guns this weekend.
Right. Yeah. So once you get kind of invested in the culture of the Marine Corps, it becomes very difficult to not be heavily invested in it. So you get to a point to where you genuinely miss being with your Marines and being in that culture, because you go back to a world that when you get back, it feels super foreign. So to me, it feels like I get to go back home once a month and get to be around a culture that I enjoy quite a bit more.
Yeah. Do you think it's in the cards for you to ever go full-time Marine?
I'm not going to say it's not, because, I do have aspirations to eventually commission as an officer.
Right.
Like most reservists do. And in all honesty, with some of the trainings that I'm going to be getting, I might go full-time, because when I come back to my civilian job, it makes me miss the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And then when I'm at drill or when I'm doing Marine Corps stuff, it genuinely makes me miss, or it makes me not want to leave. And I'm like, I don't want to go home yet. I don't want to go back to doing the other stuff. I want to do this.
Yeah, I totally get that. You kind of a sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. I remember when you were about to join, and I just thought you were crazy. You were making good money where you were at, and I was like, why rock the boat, dude? And you're like, because I've never belonged to anything bigger. And I was like, you know what? I respect the shit out of that answer,
Right. Because everybody has some place that they like to go. And some people, they go visit their family on the weekend. Some people, they go hang out with groups of friends. Some people, they go kayaking and hiking. And some people have just other things that they do, other places to go, other ways of escaping. And I've never had any of that stuff that was that kind of escape for me. But with the Marine Corps, I get to go back, and it's where I want to be.
Right. For sure.
And then like a question I had was what really like you joined straight out of high school, right? Or like when in your life did you join?
So, funny story. The first time I joined, I actually went in 2012. So I turned 17, and 3 days later, I was in a recruiter's office, getting all the documents and everything like that, so I could have my mom actually sign the little waiver so I could join the Marine Corps. And so I go in 2012, go to boot camp. Unfortunately, I got injured. I tore a bunch of tendons in both my feet, and I got discharged and sent home, which sucked. And so then so since I got discharged, it took a while for me to go back. But I was actually luckily able to go back last year, or a little over a year ago now, and was able to go and finish what I started when I first joined right out of high school.
Gotcha. And then like just like another thing, like right now I'm like at a crossroads, like where I want to join like full-time Navy, and my dad wants me to go full-time Navy, and then my mom, just to like stay safe, she kind of wants me to stay here in the reserves. Do you have any kind of like pros and cons of being here in the reserves?
Okay, so again, I'm not like an official recruiter. I don't have all of the facts, especially I don't have all the facts for the Navy for certain.
Yeah.
And this is, again, my personal opinion on a lot of this. So the pros and cons of being a reservist. The pro being you get to keep your civilian job, you get to keep your civilian life, you still get the military training, a lot of the same military benefits, and you get also a amazing network being in the military. Because I can tell you, so I work in a sales job, so for me, networking is essential. So being in the military really opened up my networking capability, and just the amount of people that I know, things I get to learn and take back and apply to the civilian world is really been a big deal, especially because the whole point of the reserves is to have service members at the ready that are also benefiting society, benefiting the area that they're in. So I think being a reservist is great, it's fantastic, it's wonderful. There are some downsides. The downside, you do have to give up some of your free time, and at a moment's notice, you can be deployed, and you can get called to active duty immediately. Marine Corps is very unique in a way that the President of the United States can at any point deploy us anywhere in the world. It doesn't take an act of Congress to move the Marine Corps.
Yeah, you guys are like shock troopers.
Exactly. So I can be somewhere in 48 hours, and that's in my contract is. In 48 hours, you can be in foreign soil throwing stuff around.
That's why you guys are called fucking devil dogs, dude. You just
Yeah.
you go wherever you're fucking needed.
And we do the mission of the Marine Corps. So there's that. There's the ability to have your life just kind of uprooted out from underneath you at any given point in time, and all it takes is one squirrely politician to kind of do that to you, and then all of a sudden, hey, you boys like Iraq.
Yeah.
And so there's a very real possibility that your whole life kind of just gets uprooted. And there's also a lot of added responsibility. Like now you also have to keep up with military standards. You have to stay in shape. You have to, which, I mean, really isn't that big of a deal. But you also have to make sure that you get military trainings done, because they give you electronic learnings that you have to do on a computer. And so you have to make time to not only accommodate what you do as a civilian and the things you're pursuing, your family, your job, personal goals and everything like that, but now you also have to take care of things for the military as well, and you have to be responsible for that.
Yeah, I sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
But I had a question kind of on that. We're kind of in this vein here, but so what's it like to like I said, I knew you before you were a Marine. So what was it like? I saw this happen to you, so I kind of know from my side. But what was it like leaving your day job as Rick, and then coming back as a fucking Marine? Like, what was it like coming back? Like, are you more confident now? Do you communicate better now? What have you noticed as Rick before and now Rick after?
So that's actually kind of a good question. It's a really interesting transition. Like, yes, I'm more confident. Certain coworkers might even call it a little more arrogant. the Marine Corps is kind of cocky. I mean,
we gotta be.
Yeah, like we know what we are. Like we're the best. And there's also another level of discipline there. Like I have to look sharp every time. Like have to look on point. Can't let my appearance slip. Can't let my physicality slip. I can't be running around a fat body and still claiming to be a Marine. I can't be lazy. There's things that I have to do, certain standards I have to uphold to myself to keep myself accountable. And other people are also looking at me, so there's also I feel a little bit of pressure because now I know other people are looking at me as well and holding me to that standard of the Marine Corps. They'll see the Marine Corps and they expect me to act a certain way, and so there's a little bit of a pressure to be that shining example of the Marine Corps in day-to-day life. And also you do have some things you do have to adjust to because, like I said, there's certain things that happens in the Marine Corps that just does not happen in the civilian world that you have to adjust to when they don't happen in the civilian world. Certain disciplines, certain customs, little things you have to remember. Hey, this isn't the Marine Corps. This is everybody else.
Right.
And so you have to very much be able to flip that switch and say, okay, I have to not be 100% or 100% hoorah Marine Corps, like this super intense, aggressive. Cause
you got to find balance at some point.
Exactly, and that's the big thing.
Yeah, I want to shift gears a little bit on. I want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of boot camp because that's what everybody wants to see. That's what all the documentaries are about and the YouTube videos and shit. So, what's the thing, like if you could put it in one sentence, like what is the single most difficult or challenging or grinding thing about boot camp? Like what if you got 10 Marines in a room and someone says one sentence and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I agree with that." Like what would that one thing be?
Communicating with others.
That is not even fucking close to what I thought was going to come out of your mouth. Let's unpack the shit out of that because I'm interested now. What do you mean by that?
All right. So, I went to NCRD San Diego. So I was in California. So that's where 51% of the Marine Corps comes from is that depot. So, and that region is covered everywhere west of the Mississippi. So you have guys like me from the Midwest. You have guys that are maybe a little bit more southern. You have guys from Chicago. You have guys. So I'm from Oklahoma. You have guys from Texas. You have guys from Arizona. You have guys from Washington. You guys have from Southern California, Mid California, and Northern California, which those three are about as distinct as I would say regions in general. Like somebody from
for sure,
somebody from SoCal and somebody from Northern California are two complete different humans. Like they don't share any cultural similarities, and it's super weird to observe. So you have all these people from all these walks of life. So like I said, when I went the second time and the time that I became a Marine, I was much older. So I was 7 years older than several guys that I was in my platoon with. And so I had to learn how to communicate with a younger generation. And us older guys, there were some guys older than me, there were a few guys my age. We had to learn how to communicate with guys younger than ourselves.
In a stressful environment.
In a stressful environment, and do it in a tactful manner. Because, I mean, a lot of these guys, this is the first time they've ever been out of the house and they've had to communicate with other humans. And so their communication skills suck ass, like, really fucking bad. Like,
yeah.
Like, not even kind of okay.
Well, they were just in math class last week, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they're in boot camp.
and now they're learning how to be the nation's premier warfighter. And so it was completely different for them. And so that was one thing that I found, and I will say everybody struggled with. I mean, I even struggled with relating to some of the guys that I think with the advent of technology, just there's a severe gap in cultures between people that were, 24, 25 to guys that are, 17, 18.
Yeah.
Because we've had, 7 years of life, 7, 8 years of life between us and then. That was one thing that we had to struggle with, and how to talk to these people and get them to understand what's going on.
Well, it's got to be interesting to see different people, different ages, different walks of life,
Different
and
culture.
and people. Not a lot of people, honestly, have been screamed at before. Like,
Not in that manner, no.
right. So can you go into a situation where you saw someone that, like, you realize, like, holy shit, that person's never been yelled at before?
So a lot of these people, a lot of these young men that have never had this kind of intense situation, never, maybe came from a healthier walk of life, or
Yeah, I know you grew up you had a pretty rough and tumble childhood, so you might have been more prepared for something like that.
Even when I was a young kid, 17, 18, and I went to boot camp the first time, it was still a bit of a culture shock, but I wasn't totally stunned like some guys were. Some guys, they will literally just freeze. They don't know what's going on. They just stop. Like, their brain literally just quits working. So when these guys do get yelled at, and they get this shock of an experience where this very angry, very intimidating, we'll call him a human, explodes out of nowhere and just starts blasting them, and they are moving way faster and expecting an immediate response and some sort of action, and that person isn't giving the right response, not doing the right action. They literally just freeze. And
so then what happens? Like, what is, like, okay, so they freeze, then what happens? Do they ask them? I'm sure they don't ask them nicely. Like, do they shove them down? Like, do they tell them to do push-ups? Like, what happens next?
No, so what happens is, so they can't put their hands on you.
Right.
New Marine Corps, you can't put your hands on guys that you expect to fight a war, whatever. So basically just keep yelling at them until either somebody else takes charge and moves that person, gets them to do something. I mean, the whole platoon will yell at you and tell you, do this, do that, like, because we're about to get smoked if that person doesn't do something. Like, that person needs to move. So we're all going to yell at him, try to make him understand the command.
Right.
Or what's going to happen is that drill instructor will know what happened, and a lot of people think these drill instructors are just like kind of blind firing anger, but they actually go through a very, very, very rigorous training that's very difficult to learn how to have this level of intensity but still make your communication clear and known. And so when this happens, they'll know what happens, and so they can immediately change and shift gears and make sure that person knows what they did wrong. Now, usually that means you get IT'd, or what we call is incentivized training, which basically empty your pockets, and we're just going to basically physically exhaust the crap out of you. You're going to do like a series of push-ups, jumping jacks, crunches, steam engines, and it's all going to be very, very, very fast. They're going to change pace, so it'll be like push, 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 side shuttle hops, jump, 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 crunches, and then they'll make you like go up and down, up and down. And it breaks you, but what it does is it breaks them away from that moment of petrification to a command that they know, and it might not be the best thing to happen to them, but it breaks them from that stasis.
Mm-hmm.
So that does happen, and those drill instructors know how to handle that when it happens.
Right.
Now sometimes if they don't have time to, ITM, they'll slow down, reiterate what they're saying with a different level of intensity and get the message across. That way, it happens. They are aware of when that kind of stuff happens and
For
what
sure.
to do.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go to a quick break. We got some more questions from you coming back, and don't go away. How's it going, everybody? This is Spike from the Purgatory Podcast. When Matt and I decided to start this podcast, neither one of us knew kind of where to start or how to distribute it to different platforms, and that's when we came across the Anchor app. Now, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast because they give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your computer or your phone. Different creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. And this was the kicker for me. They'll distribute your podcast with no minimum listenership to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and several more. Now, there's really only one more thing left for you to do if you're looking to start a podcast, and that's get out your phone, open your laptop, download the Anchor app, and go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, freaks and freakettes, welcome back from the break. We are here with Billy Badass, the Marine, Mr. Rick, coming at you, back at it again with another podcast episode.
On like a less serious topic, something I've always seen on like the boot camp videos and stuff like that. What was showering like for you guys?
Showering?
Yeah.
Basically, it's a high school locker room. Just without the curtains and a whole lot less grab ass. Oddly. You would think there'd be more grab ass, but it was honestly less.
Well, you're an adult. Like, I've seen a dick. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you basically, they split the platoon in two, and they run half of you through the shower and then half of you through the shift shower shape. And so some of the guys are, and you can tell the ones that didn't play sports or weren't super comfortable in that situation because they're really fucking awkward about having a bunch of dudes with their dicks out. But honestly, you get over it, and there's a certain
Dude, I'm all about dudes with their dicks out.
Who isn't?
Listen, everyone talks about the showering and like, showering must be super weird. Bunch of dudes naked in a big room with a bunch of shower heads. Honestly, if you play sports, it's not that fucking weird.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing sports. I'm completely fine with it. I've just like heard stories of like, dudes that are like pissing in like the middle of the drain. You know what I mean? The drain that everyone shares, or like one dude that's like trying to like sneakily like jerk off. You know?
Okay, so the ones that are trying to sneakily jerk off, they usually wait until like we hit the lights, and then they go to the head and try to do that shit. But we all know, and we'll call them out. So you never want to be that guy, because like one dude got called out and kind of embarrassed him. So nobody else really did that.
So wait. I'm gonna call your ass out. I'm gonna call your ass out on this. So wait, boot camp's what? 4 months?
3 months.
Okay, so 3 months. You're telling me you didn't jerk off for 3 months? You got home and you came a fucking fire hose. Like,
listen, man. When it came out, there was an audible pop of it breaking the sound barrier. Yeah. It like all I had to do was like think about my dick, like put my hand on it, one pump like a shotgun, and that shit fired away. Like there was no endurance built up. I lost, all freaking.
Yeah, there was no squeezing the base on that one. It was just open fire.
Listen, there was 10 years of beating the meat that had just went down the drain. Like I had like no endurance. And
you didn't even have to take yourself out on a date or anything first.
No, man, I didn't. Listen, the video didn't even load. Like it was just. Like that buffer wheel was still. I was still trying to find what I was going to, and I was still like, I got to the end on Pornhub, and just the word porn did it for me.
I heard a story from a soldier that was deployed, and he said that, I mean, if you're over there for 9 months or a year or whatever, dudes are gonna be dudes, and he said that they would like, all right, I'm gonna go get water. I'll be gone for 15 minutes. Use the time wisely. And or like if you're gonna walk into the room you're sharing it with, you like stomp really loud, like boom, 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 like to make sure that they know you're out in front of the door.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So going from boot camp to MCT, where boot camp everybody was scared to touch their little wieners, to MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, for us pogues that aren't infantry. We go to a 1-month infantry course instead of a 3-month infantry course. And so in MCT, like, you gotta like pull dudes out of the bathroom because they got their phones and they're sitting there like furiously beating their meat, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to take a shit. Like, listen, I get you got some hormones, but I'm turtle heading over here. Like, I gotta go. I'm going to tail.
Well, what's it like when, like, I've seen attractive female Marines before. Like, what's it like to see that attractive female Marine? If she's like a 6, does she become a 10 around all the students?
Yeah, so it's super weird, and this is kind of like a weird topic for me because, like, people. So I have this very strange mentality of, like, people in my unit. Like, if you're in my unit, you're not.
You don't even see them like that.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not like, oh, I could get with this. Like, that's not a thought that I have in my head, because even at work, like, I don't hook up with coworkers. Just the opportunity's been there, but it's just like against my moral code. So whenever, don't get me wrong, like, I've met some female Marines, and I'm like, damn, she's attractive.
I mean, you know they're gonna be fit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're on base and you're in, like, normal people, like, you shower every night and you change your clothes every day, then yeah, it's great, it's fantastic. But you can take a 10 into the field in a weekend. You're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
Yeah. Everybody smells like shit after they haven't showered for a week.
Listen, even the women smell like ball sweat. So like you're not thinking about that at all. Now, you put me on a combat deployment and I'm there for 7 months with them, and I haven't seen a woman other than them, maybe. But as of right now, I mean, like, that's there are very attractive women in the Marine Corps. Yes,
all right, yeah, I can tell that this is like a really uncomfortable for you. Because you're like,
Okay, so to put it tactfully, there are very, very attractive women in the Marine Corps. The women in the Marine Corps keep themselves generally pretty well groomed, pretty well hygiene, and really just do a good job, taking care of themselves. It's kind of basically everything that a man wants out of a woman.
Pretty much every Marine does that, but
yeah, and not like they know how to keep themselves put together. And when they're in their civilian attire, they have to look a certain type of presentable. You can't look like a freaking bum on base, like you'll get called out.
Yeah.
So they generally look nice, and so it's a little different that way.
So what do you have any lasting relationships that you made from boot camp or like the early process of joining the Marine Corps that you think will last for years or decades?
Absolutely. So I've made some really incredible friends that I communicate with regularly. We don't live in the same state. We don't live in the same time zone, some of us. But there's, with the advent of technology, it is so much easier to stay in contact with all these guys. So some of these guys that, I would have had to get addresses for back in the day, and you hear the stories of comrades, brothers in arms that were no longer in communication with each other for years and years and years because they lost contact or didn't have a way of contacting each other, suddenly able to reconnect. So with the of technology, I can keep all these really close friendships and it not be even kind of an issue. So, for example, there's one guy who, him and I went to boot camp together, not like on the buddy program or anything, but he left the same day I did. We were in the same company. We were in different platoons, but we saw each other regularly enough where, we could kind of brush elbows and say, hey, what's up? Standing in line certain places, sneak a quick conversation. Then when we went to the NCT together, we went to NCT. We were in the same platoon there, so we spent a lot of time together, and in very, 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 very close proximity with each other. And then we went to comm school together, where we both became comm Marines, and now we're in the same reserve unit. And so this guy and I are very, 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 very tight, just because we've pretty much had a very similar Marine Corps experience with one another. Even guys that I didn't have that experience with, there are some guys that just, we clicked, we communicated well, we were around the same age, had similar experiences in boot camp, got very, very, very tight in boot camp, and never lost communication. So I'm very close with some of those guys. That kind of a brotherhood and that kind of a closeness, I don't think is prevalent anywhere. I mean, you can have really close high school friends, but
yeah, I mean, you hear the term like forged in fire, like it's you go through something that's difficult together, and your relationship is going to be much stronger than a relationship that was formed in an easy setting,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So when you do go through boot camp and you go globe and anchor together, and you have to exist in really closeness to somebody else, you start to develop that bond. And when you spend enough time with someone, they become that close. And also all Marines, like I've met Marines that are out of the Marine Corps, part of a different unit. Literally no reason that this person and I should be immediately as close as we are. It's, you just are that tight immediately.
Well, you share the in common that you're both Marines, and that's enough.
Exactly. So the example that I would use is like, say you get stranded in India, so someplace that's completely foreign in a culture you've never been around, and somebody else from, say, so for me, somebody else from Oklahoma just like shows up in my life. Like, I'm immediately going to like that person because we're in a foreign
You have some common
environment,
ground, yeah.
but there's so much common ground there. Like, yeah, so.
Yeah, but India's the shit, though. I love that food.
Yes, for people that can handle spicy food.
Yeah. Copy that.
Copy. Well, one thing that, I mean, I've talked to like several Marines before, and one thing that I've heard that they're not a fan of is kind of people that wear their uniform while they're like, just like in their everyday life, you know what I mean? Like when they're off duty. How do you feel about that?
So yeah, I hate it. So in the Marine Corps, it's actually against Marine Corps order to wear your uniform off of base. Now that's your camis. Now your service uniform, so the ones with like the brown shirt and like your medals and ribbons and stuff on it, that's totally fine to wear wherever. Some exceptions. But there's really a issue that I have whenever you wear your camis out and you're wearing it kind of, I think some of them show off a little bit, and to me that just paints a target on your back. I mean, we live in a world where you don't know who could be against you.
We live in a society.
So it's really strange for me to make yourself known as a service member, because that makes you a bigger target for anything like that to happen.
Like the Marine I talked to, he was saying like he hates it because like he sees it happen and he's like, okay, this guy's just like trying to get a free Chipotle, you know what I mean? Or he's trying to get like just like people to applaud him, or he wants someone to come up to him and say, oh, thank you for your service, you know what I mean? Like he's asking for attention pretty much.
Yeah, so that's something else. Honestly, I think it makes you kind of a try hard, like you're like you have to show up that you're in the military. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, there's always going to be flies in the ointment. You know, there's always going to be people that ruin it for everybody else. But the thing that really pisses me off and is an actual crime is stolen valor.
Stolen valor, dude.
And you know what? You know what is the worst is it's 90% of the time they're posing as a Marine.
Yeah.
It's fucking always a Marine or a Navy SEAL.
So it's either a Navy SEAL or they pose like an Army Ranger or a Green Beret. They always
Or
try
a
to
sniper.
Yeah, they always try to pose as special forces. So that's like the biggest tip-off in the world is if someone's running around in their camis or in their uniform and they have like all like this special forces stuff and all these badges. First off, those guys don't do that. Like,
right. They don't wear the hat that says Purple Heart. Well, some of them do, but most of them don't wear that shit. They don't want to advertise that.
No, because it is doubly so if you kidnap a service member, okay, cool, it's a big deal. If you shoot a service member, it's a big deal. If you shoot somebody that is special operations or you kidnap them or something like that happens or they get involved in an incident, it is even bigger news. And so that's a much bigger target. So those guys definitely don't want that target on their back. They might wear like a Frogman t-shirt or like a Raiders shirt or something.
Or like
that.
a Black Rifle Coffee shirt or some kind of veteran-owned thing. That's what I see most of them wear is like a, you know, that fucking shirt company that has the American flag on the sleeve.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I see most guys wearing is like Black Rifle Coffee or the Grunt Style, I think is what it's called, the t-shirt company.
Yeah, you got Grunt Style, Ranger Up, you have Article 15, 9 Line, a bunch of different clothing companies out there that have that the veterans wear. And you know what? It doesn't matter what your job was in the military. You'll wear those shirts because, hey, you want people to know you're in the military. Cool. And that's fine. It
needs to be for the right reasons. And some people, I think the line gets blurred on what their reasoning is. Or maybe they had the correct reasoning at some point and they've lost sight of it.
There's definitely some people that they want the fame, they want the recognition, they want the big huzzah.
Yeah.
I want to kind of bring it around and say, what do you think, the kid that's 16 years old thinking about joining, maybe had a childhood similar to yours, like what advice would you give them about what the Marine Corps is, what it isn't, and what someone can expect about becoming a Marine? Like I know that's really, really broad, but I think you get what I'm saying.
So for the guy that had the disenfranchised youth, the guy that didn't have that strong family unit, that had maybe a rougher childhood, no place is more ready to accept you than the Marine Corps. No place is more willing to take your past, your mistakes, your problems, and make you a better person for it. So I really think the guys that are thinking about that. Sorry about this, guys.
Are you at a fucking drive-through?
I'm at a toll road. Can we re-edit that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's Oklahoma, dude. You can't get anywhere without going to toll booths.
Like, I had my finger up, like, please don't talk right now, and she's like, what? All right.
I thought you were, I like, no shit, thought you were at a drive-thru and you were ordering a fucking McDonald's, and I was like, will you believe this fucking guy?
I was like, I didn't hear him order. When did he order? I was like,
that would be like the biggest I don't care about this podcast ever. I'll take a number one. Hang on, guys. I'll take a number one.
Yeah, so for the guy thinking about joining the Marine Corps, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm gonna take a triple.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's take the shit from the top. So for the guy that had the disenfranchised youth, that had the rougher childhood, never had that sense of belonging, that knowledge of having something solid under your feet, I think the Marine Corps is the best place for you. There's no place more willing to accept you, more ready to accept you than the Marine Corps. Guys like me put a lot into it. We really want to be Marines. We're the ones that benefit the most from it. because we get that sense of belonging, we get that brotherhood, we get that closeness that we've never felt. Having that is life-changing, and you'll do anything for your Marines. And I think those guys make some of the best Marines out there. And am I saying that if you come from a different walk of life or a different childhood, you're going to be a bad Marine, or even it's going to completely void you from being a great Marine? Absolutely not. It's those guys that need the Marine Corps benefit the most from it, because they do everything they can to try to give back to the Marine Corps. And so I really think people that are kind of on the edge, like, oh, well, thinking about going to the military just so I can escape where I'm at now. I can escape the life that I'm in, the life that I've had to live. I want to get out of gangland in Southside LA. I want to get out of, a bad part of big city. Or, hey, I don't want to live in the same meth tweaker town that I grew up in. I don't want to have to work in the oil field with the guys that harassed me in high school. I don't want to have to be around the environment that I recognize as toxic for me. I want to get out of that. Absolutely, the military is a great option for you. It will get you far, far away from that and give you the ability to never have to come back.
And provide structure. I feel like you mentioned like the gangland type shit. Like a lot of people have just their life is there's no structure at all,
Right.
And sometimes the military is good for that. Like, so you mentioned who it might be good for, and it's been great for you. Now, who do you think would not jive in the military? Like, not everybody's cut out to be a Marine or a soldier or an airman or a sailor. Like, who do you think? Who is it not for?
So I'm not going to say it's not for anybody, because anybody can go to the military and benefit in some way, some job, some facet of the military you might do great in. Honestly, the guys that I think are going to have the worst time in the military are the guys that lack humility. So your arrogant guys that think, hey, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to learn anything, and I'm not going to benefit. And going with the attitude of, I'm already better than this, first off, do not. Stop. That kind of mentality just really isn't conducive to the military, because the military is all about communication and community and getting a very, 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 very tight bond.
Right.
The guys that try to go out of their way to stand out, that go out of their way to be different, go out of their way to show that they're better, they really don't have, in my opinion, not any affiliation with the military. This is my opinion, what I've observed. Guys like that usually are a bigger detractor to the unit. Guys that think they know what they're talking about and convince other people that they know what they're talking about and then lead other people astray. Those are the worst kinds of people, because you're breaking down cohesion in the unit, and that's not going to drive in the military. I mean, those are the kind of guys that I don't really want in my unit. That I wouldn't, if war was a dodgeball game, those are the guys that I would leave on the bench or pick last.
It'd be way easier if war was a dodgeball game.
Yeah, very much would be. Well, I mean, technically it kind of is. I mean, you throw things at the other guy and they get out. And occasionally you can save a guy.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's been awesome talking to you. I mean, you got anything else, man?
No, I was just gonna say, thank you for your service. You know what I mean, for being part of the military. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you definitely interested me a lot more with what you said. It was pretty inspirational there at the end.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I parrot what he says. I appreciate your service. The Marine Corps for you has been fantastic. I've seen a change in you. Like, you're a different person than when I first knew you, So the Marine Corps can be very positive for some people, but like we said when we talked to the soldier on this podcast, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So make sure your heart's in it. Make sure you want it. We thank all service members, civil servants, cops, everybody that's working hard for what they do. We thank them. And it's been great. We need to have you on again. We say that to every guest because we've just been blessed with great guests, you know.
For sure.
But make sure to check out Purgatory Podcast on Twitter, Purgatory Podcast on Instagram, Purgatory Podcast on YouTube. Check out the pledge tiers on the Anchor app if you want to support the program. And make sure to keep tuning in for your weekly dose of Purgatory.